Hey everyone, welcome back to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I'm Nick.
I'm Devin.
And we are recording after a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And so we're getting back into the swing of things. But it's good to be back in the studio.
Yeah.
I like calling it the studio.
That's what I refer to when I'm walking around the house. It's like, oh, it's in the studio. It used to be my dog's room. I used to share my office with my dog in his crate, and then it was the boys' room, and then it was just Calvin's room, the dog, and then it became the studio. It's an ever-evolving room.
And truly, do we go back to calling it the boys' room? I think
No girls allowed.
No.
Taped over the door.
it reminds me of the Amanda show.
Yeah.
The girls' room. I think it would play into our theme.
Perfect.
I think it'd be great.
I always think of like Calvin Hobbes comics where he has his treehouse, or it's like no girls allowed to like keep Susie out.
Are you Calvin or are you Hobbes?
I was usually Hobbes because
Okay.
I'm tall.
That tracks.
And my brother was usually Calvin because he's shorter than me.
Do they still make those comics or is it
No,
done?
no, it's done.
Yikes.
But the creator has kept on to the license, so no toys or movies or shows can ever be made. It's only
Unless-
content that he creates.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's fair.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What's new with you? What's going on?
Well, I turned 30.
Yeah, you did. Happy birthday
It
from all
sucks.
of us to you.
It doesn't suck. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I know everyone is listening to this saying happy birthday, Devin.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for all the birthday wishes.
When this releases, you're going to hear it in unison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole world in quiet.
I've contacted everyone. Don't worry
Perfect.
about it. Yeah.
Our DMs are gonna blow up with happy birthday messages.
Can't even believe. Can't even believe.
Yeah. So I just turned 30, and I feel okay about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you feel like you had some like existential dread going into it?
No, I feel like people put so much pressure on the big birthdays.
Sure.
On your 16, 18, 21, 30, etc.
Yeah.
25 for me was a big one because that's like my golden birthday.
True.
So was 23 because that's your Michael Jordan year. What up?
Okay.
So it has to be a good year.
It's not a thing.
It was. And so I feel like everyone was like, oh, it's the big 3-0. You know what that means. And I was like, what does it mean? My knees have been hurting for years already. My back hurts. I already have gray hair on several parts of my body. Not just the top of my head.
Not just the top. Please list all the places you have gray hair, Devin.
And so I kind of went into it how I normally do with my birthday, where it's just like, well, it's just another year. It's another Tuesday. But this year we did go to see the Crosstown Classic, Cubs versus Sox. Cubs won. Let's go, boys.
Boys.
And so that was really fun. That was a good time with my family. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a fun time.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, you've been 30 for a little bit, so like I had someone to be like, "Oh, this is what 30 is."
Cute. But no, I know what you mean. Like it does. Like you kind of amplify these big like milestones and birthdays. But like honestly, and I don't know if it's just our generation or like kind of the era that we're in, but I just feel like I'm still kind of young. And like a kid sometimes. You know what I mean?
I don't feel like I should be where a 30-year-old is at.
Correct. Like growing up, I'm like, why don't I have like 8 children in a home? Right. Like,
Like 6 have already died. I'm on number 9. The farm is doing terribly.
I didn't really take it back to 1892, but if that's what you were thinking, sure.
The famine is terrible.
Right. Those potatoes, man. Yikes. But no, I think there's still a lot of ways where I'm just like, I don't know about this. I don't know about that. Like I'll call my mom and be like, does this make sense? Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
Dad, how do I buy a car?
what is this? And so it is very strange. But I feel like a lot of people our age kind of fall into that predicament of just being like, I don't know. I think we also are doing things later in life, and that's okay. Like we're not rushing to grow up per se.
Right. Well, I mean, with the life expectancy of people was on an upward trend. I don't know about at the moment.
Right. Currently,
at least in America. And like we're able to take our time. We want to enjoy all these things, and I think with the economic and political climate,
Nicely put. Nicely put.
we're trying to find the little things in life.
Yeah.
After going through so much in our short 30 years.
Oh, I know.
Also, 30 years is a very small amount of time.
Very small amount of time. Even like turning 25 and thinking of like I always said quarter life crisis. My husband always called it my midlife crisis. So we'll see what my life expectancy is.
You're not here for a long time.
Correct.
Just a good time.
Just a real good time. I was like, well, if I just double my life from like birth to now and do it all over again, I'm only 50.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Right. And like my grandparents, my great aunt, they're well up in their late 90s and they're like still kicking and having fun. So I'm like, how long am I going to live?
Right. Well, this is a little bit like nerdy, but hi, welcome to the podcast. Ricardo Moody, who is the conductor of the CSO. He's been the conductor for the past like 10 years.
Yeah.
Just celebrated his 82nd birthday the other day. And I was like, you look fantastic for 82. And like you're up there fully conducting and like energized. And I'm like, at 82 years old?
That's crazy.
I'm like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, do you work out? Like, what's the secret? What are you doing?
Are you just like drinking unicorn blood? Like, what's up?
Totally what it is. A little not well-known secret in the orchestra community is the perseverance of unicorn blood. Well, let's jump into... So I'm taking a page out of your book, kind of, today.
Oh, that's a short book, but go ahead.
I was like, wow, that was really quick to get through. In the sense of, I want to start today with a little bit more of an open discussion and like plug your brain a little bit more, because I think the science behind this. So my topic's going to be a little bit more conspiracy theory.
Okay.
However, the science behind it, I think you'll know more about.
Okay.
And so we're going to open discussion it.
Yeah.
And don't worry, it's not going to be like, tell me about your childhood trauma. I wouldn't do that to you.
What an asshole thing to do to someone.
I'm like other people on this fucking show. I'm going to ask you first and foremost, what do you know about time travel and the possibility of time travel?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
tell me everything.
There's a lot. there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to set a reminder for myself.
Okay.
To later in the future to jump back in time to give myself some notes on time travel, so I make sure to hit all the points of what we know about time travel at this moment. So we're just going to wait for that moment to happen.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, it didn't
happen. So you don't think time travel is possible?
Well, here's the fun thing. I don't think time travel, personally, this is my personal opinion.
In your opinion.
I don't think time travel happens where we jump in the same timeline. I think we jump into an alternate bubble. God, there's so many fucking
You're going to
things.
talk about bubble theory?
There's the bubble theory, string theory, then there's like Back to the Future shit. Oh my God. Okay.
And like what I'll say is what kind of sparked this was we started this conversation when we talked about SETI.
Right.
A little bit.
Going through the black hole.
Go through the black hole.
Yeah.
Right. But also just talking about like theory of relativity and like time travel in general.
Right.
Like the grandfather paradox, the theory that like you can loop back into like kind of to your point, kind of bubble theory where like you would jump back and it would kind of create an alternate like timeline in a sense, but a replica of the current, and then you would loop back into the our current reality, our current reality. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so interesting. Continue. Please continue. That's kind of what sparked this.
Yeah. Well, I think if we're diving into this, I think when you make a decision, there's a theory out there that when you make a decision, like if I was going left or right down a path, a fork in the road, I have a left or right choice. If me, myself, in this reality that I'm currently in, decides to go left down the fork in the road, then another universe is created where I go right down the road.
Right.
And so I think you can time travel to like those points to see.
So you think more like you can jump into alternate realities more so than you time travel.
Yeah. I think that's how you time travel. You're just going to an alternate reality of a different past, present, or future.
So like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Sure.
Have you seen that?
No.
What? Why? Just haven't.
I was playing a lot of Diablo 4 to get through the campaign before the season 1 started.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so then Heard.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I think there is the possibility of 1, alternate realities, but 2, being able to jump between them.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
do you think you can manipulate time? Like if you were to feed yourself into the theory of time travel as it's colloquially known,
Yeah.
do you think that science is possible?
Like say we're on one line of time and you're thinking of just jumping back or forth along that linear line.
Yeah.
And staying within the same reality.
Yep.
Just to clarify for everybody.
Yes,
Mostly
yes,
myself.
Yes.
Do you think that's possible?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say not in my lifetime.
Okay.
Because of the experiment I just did at the beginning of this discussion is the same experiment Stephen Hawking did. He threw a time traveler party for anyone to come back in time to participate in. So he had this whole shindig, a banner and everything, I think.
A banner? My God.
Yeah, I mean, like, welcome time travelers. And he
Really
just
splurged.
sat there in an empty room waiting for time travelers to show up.
I know.
And nothing. And he was like, see, no one fucking showed up. Time travel doesn't exist.
Interesting.
So obviously no one's going to waste time to come and hang out with me.
or
if they could go back in time and hang out with Stephen Hawking.
Or are we all going to find out that Stephen Hawking was like a dick, and so nobody wanted to come back to his party?
Maybe. Who knows? So the thing though too with this linear time travel discussion is I think things will happen no matter what. Like even if you are like even if you go back in time and try to prevent like you push someone out of the way of a car accident that was supposed to kill them, they'll be like, oh my God, thank you so much, and then go get like jumped and get stabbed and die that way instead of getting hit by a car and dying that way. So like there, I think you won't be able to change destiny. Yeah, I guess
that's fair. I feel like when I was younger, I always thought that like once something happened, it was done. Yeah. Like the concept of like time traveling and like jumping back into the past, or I was like, but it's gone. Like it already
right. There's nothing back there.
In order for that to happen, that means that instant or any sort of millisecond of time has to constantly be playing. Right. For you to be able to jump back to that time. You know what I mean?
So then you have to have that loop of time of this is a moment I can jump back to because it's a past version of myself is playing through that moment.
Right. So there's also a theory where time sits in a box. Okay. And so like our reality, our time frame within like the planet or myself or whatever, it sits within a box. Yeah. So then you're able to travel within the box back within because everything's kind of predetermined at that point, right? Yeah. So you could jump to the future, to the end of it, to the back, to the beginning, whatever. But you can't go outside of it. Okay. And so that theory makes sense in the way of, well, then if everything's constantly occurring within the box, nothing new is being built. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then sure, I could kind of jump back and forth within the box or wherever. But if time is just infinite and ever flowing, it just seems to be a little bit more odd,
tricky to find.
Yeah, that's where I think, like, to your point, like kind of bubble theory or jumping to realities makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. So I want to ask a quick clarification question. Yeah, is the topic of the episode time travel?
It relates to time travel.
Okay. So we're not solid into it yet. We're just talking about cool.
Well, there will be a disclaimer if we get into the physics of time travel.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, because then I also think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Party On Dudes, and like in that movie, once they figure out time travel, like how that works, for themselves, obviously they're introduced by the phone booth by Rufus. If you haven't seen the movie, please do. It's phenomenal. But they figure out how to manipulate time travel for themselves to their advantage. So like they'll say, "Oh, Bill, you have to remind me later, dude, to put the keys over there." And so then later when they're done with their adventure, they'll travel back in time to put keys in this specific location. And so in that moment in the movie, as soon as they're done saying like, "Remind me, dude," they'll find the keys in that location for themselves.
And the reason you don't do voiceover work is
My DMs are open.
right. Yeah, I think of more like within time travel, and again, that's why I say like this topic is going to be more like conspiracy theory ish.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think about like Interstellar in the sense of like time.
Yeah.
Fucking, I think we should just do an episode on Interstellar. To be honest, at this point,
Just a
like
watch party of Interstellar.
right.
That's fine with me. That's fine.
We'll stream it on Twitch. Okay. My thing is just like time is different within relation to gravitational pull, right? And so like
Correct.
time travel in that sense, whereas it's not really travel. I think it's more like time manipulation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We kind of touched this on a different episode
Right.
about the twin experiment where one was orbiting Earth, one was staying on Earth, and they were different ages when they both met up again. Yeah, well, because that's just theory of relativity. Let me try that again.
I like it.
Theory of relativity.
There it is.
There it is.
Every single syllable.
Thanks, Albert.
No, 100%. And so I think it's, I don't know, it's interesting. But I mean, we see that all the time where it's just like, if I'm a time traveler, like, come back to this point, but also
that's an asshole experiment.
we don't know the paradoxes, you know what I mean, involved in it if it actually becomes a thing.
Right, there could be an alternate universe where someone does burst through the store over here and hand me notes on time travel. I'm like, this is how it works. But it's in a different universe than the one we're currently living in.
Correct.
And I'm like, you're fucking crazy, dude.
Well, and so there's a different topic that I'll cover, I think, at a later date, and it's like a longer, more in-depth one. Yeah. But it deals with time travel and like the government, and so that's kind of cool.
Absolutely.
And super conspiracy theory, but
well, there was all that UFO shit that just came out too. So
exactly. Which also kind of ties into the topic. Should we just dive into the topic?
I think you gotta tell me. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, gearing up, chomping at the bit, if you will. So if I say the name Sergei Ponomarenko to you, you'll say,
sounds familiar.
Yeah?
Maybe I'm thinking of a different Sergei.
No, there are a couple of Sergei Ponomarenkos. One I think is like a Olympic like ice skater. There's
That's
two.
The one I was thinking of. That's the one.
There it is. Mm-hmm. There it is. Big ice figure fan over here. Huge. What do you call it? So there are a couple. So if you just like put in that name, like this isn't going to be the first thing that comes up because again, it's a conspiracy theory.
Perfect.
However, this is starting to make its rounds again, kind of like on the internet, and I think it's kind of starting to like started to trend a little bit on TikTok again. Just kind of like this theory or story or whatever. So. April 2006.
Oh, not that far back.
Not that far
Love
back.
Love that for us.
Right? I'm not taking us back to BC.
Great.
So April 2006, a man named Sergei Ponomarenko arrives in Kiev. Kiev?
Kiev. Kiev is the Russian way of saying that city. So we don't say that anymore.
How dare I?
Yeah, so it's just Kiev.
Can you get the soap for my mouth, please? Thank you. So arrives in Kiev in anachronistic like clothing, and a unique camera, kind of confused. People are like, it's kind of weird, you know what I mean? Eventually, is kind of like, where am I? Finds some police and goes to the police, and they're like, hey, can you tell me like, just a little like lost, like, can you tell me where this address is? I'm like, this street, and they're like, what street are you talking about? And he's like, says the name of the street, whatever. They're like, that doesn't exist. Like, that's not like a street that exists in Kiev. And he's like,
he knew where he was though, like in Ukraine.
Kind of. He kind of recognized it, kind of didn't. And so they're like, hey, can you show me like? Yeah. Let's just like work two cops. Like you seem a little like disoriented. Like how about you like give me your ID? You know what I mean? So hands the police his ID. His ID is super interesting because it says that he was born in 1932 and it is a Soviet Union ID. And the clothing he's wearing is like very like 50s, very like old style, unique like camera that he has.
Did he look young or did he look old?
25 years old.
Oh.
I'm like, look 25.
Huh.
And so they're like, this is weird.
This is gotta be a prank.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're like, he seems like super, like he knows about the street, like all these things. So they're like, how about you just like maybe something's happening mentally, right? Like, how about you come with us?
Yeah.
Right. So they go back to the station and they do some more questions and things like that. And Sergei states that it was 1958. He decided to go out for a walk, take some pictures with his camera, things like that around Kyiv, all these things. And then the last picture he took like took the picture, kind of looked down really quick, looked back up, and all of a sudden there was like this city around him, like this metropolis around him. And then he found out he was in 2006. And so like, well, that's weird and not possible.
That's super bizarre.
Right. And so he was like, okay, like, well, you know, I can tell you right now, like on the camera, there's, you know, photos of me and my girlfriend, photos of, like around the town, like all
develop
these things.
These,
right.
We can see them.
The last thing he's like, I took a picture of was like this weird object in the sky.
Oh.
Wait for it. So they were like, okay. So the police want to develop the film, but like because of the state of the film in the sense of like, it's not just film you can like pop out and develop, right? Like it's old film.
Right.
They were like, they had to bring in a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So the specialist comes in, like he's like, wow, this is like pristine condition of a camera, like new, basically.
Yeah.
And he was like, the other thing is this film hasn't been made since the 70s.
Oh.
So like it's not in distribution anymore. All of these things, right? So he produces the film, all of that, and they find out that on it is everything that he said, like pictures of like him and a woman, like what looked like 1950s Kyiv. And the last photo was kind of this weird, like bell-shaped, like object in the sky. And so they're just kind of like, okay, like why don't you just like hang tight? So they bring him into a room, and the door is covered.
Is it a nice white padded room?
Yeah, like put on this jacket.
It's real cozy.
Right, I promise you'll love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a warm hug, and
for yourself.
And so there's CCTV footage of like the door.
Yeah.
So like if you try to like get out or like whatever, like it's recorded, right?
Right.
So they leave him in there.
Of just the door or him inside the room as well?
Just the door.
Oh.
So nothing of the room, but there's no other exit.
Okay.
So the door's the only exit. It's not like there's like he went through the vents. Like speaking of Mission Impossible, that you were talking about earlier, like that's the only way in or out.
All right.
Okay. So they go and they go and they're checking out the story, all these things, and they go back to like ask him some more questions. Gone.
I fucking knew it.
You knew it, of course.
That's why I asked if there's a fucking camera in the goddamn room.
No.
Of course there wasn't. Only on the GD door.
But like, thanks for saying GD.
After I said goddamn
yeah,
two times in a row.
Exactly. We're gonna switch it up, just in case. So again, no footage on the CCTV of anyone entering or leaving, whether it be Sergei, whether it be someone else, all these things. Nothing damaged or destroyed within the room. Like everything.
No, like scorch mark where you got zapped by lightning to get sent back in time.
No one bulldozed in. Right, exactly. Just gone.
Did they check for the tunnel behind the poster?
That's what it was. Call them up.
Okay, I think they're a little busy right now with, that whole conflict.
Could you imagine, though? They were like, Kyiv police. And you're like, did you check the poster? And they're like, son of a bitch! That'd be so good. Like an El Chapo sort of thing. Okay, anyway. So they go back. He's disappeared. He's gone. And they're like, well, what the fuck?
Right.
So they look into like his name more, and like he had named his girlfriend at the time, all these things, right? So they look into his name more. Nothing of recent database, but they do find a missing persons report with his name from 1958 in Kyiv.
They went into the paper, like the old filing cabinet.
They went,
You're
yeah,
right.
and I was like, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So then they were like, okay, well, let's look up the girlfriend, right? So like expecting to find like maybe this like a disappearance or something weird.
Right.
Nope, alive, well, in her 70s, in Kyiv, which matches the timeline. So then they go to her and they're like, hey,
did you know this person?
Right. Like,
Right.
hey, they still have his ID and everything. So like,
Right.
hey, do you know this man? Like, kind of weird situation, all these things. She's like, yeah, he disappeared in 1958 for like 2 years, came back, like reappeared, was back for a minute, and then disappeared again. I think it was like the late 60s or something like that. Like, for good. She goes, oh, and I have this photo of him from like 2050 standing in front of like the Kiev skyline.
Wait, 2050?
Correct, 50. So she
like
was
27 years into the future from today.
yes.
What?
So
Okay,
they were
okay,
like,
okay, hold
she
on.
was like, okay, fine.
So she's like, yeah, I know this dude.
Yeah,
He was gone for a minute, came
Right.
back, and then was gone again for good.
yeah.
But during that time, he gave me a photo from the future.
I don't think gave her. I think like a almost like a postcard situation. Which I don't know. I don't
Okay,
have details of
okay.
how it got into her hands,
Okay.
but it doesn't seem like he gave it to her. It was
Yeah.
more like I was sent this
Yeah.
photo.
You're making me itch with this. All right, let's go on.
So she's like, oh, I have this photo
Yeah.
of him from 2050. On the back of it, it says like, hey, like I'm doing okay. I'm gonna try to return when I can.
Buy AMC stock, like anything like that?
Nope.
No. Okay.
The lottery numbers are
Right.
nothing. Buy AMC stock. That would be rough a couple years ago. And so anyway, so she's like, this is what I have for you.
Yeah.
But I can tell you as a real person. We dated, all of these things, whatever. So they're like, this is weird. So they look at the photo and it's
Right.
like, that's him. And like a skyline we don't, like we recognize we don't. Like if you look at like the skyline from
Because
like
it's all
90s Chicago
fucked up
versus
now,
like
though.
now. Right. Well,
It's all been blown up, so they had to rebuild it.
Right.
So it's a different fucking skyline.
but they don't know that in 2006.
No, they don't.
But
Oh
also
my
like,
God.
but it also does give us hope that like
Well, of course
Keith
they're going to
still stands.
rebuild. Yeah,
we just don't know under whose rule.
we do.
If the U.S. has
God damn it,
anything
we
to
do
say
it.
about it, yeah. So they're like, this is just really weird. And so like, but now they're like, well, we don't have him anymore.
Right.
We have all this information.
Right.
Like it just, that's it. Like
It's-
done.
yeah.
Right? So around that time, this show in Ukraine called Aliens came out and was like, oh, and like started to tell the story of Sergei Ponomarenko. And then was like, everything in this is like a dramatization and a reenactment of this story.
Right.
So there was this YouTuber called Joe Scott. And he started to like kind of dismantle the story a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, like this photo that they show on the TV show is like incorrect. Like the seal is incorrect. And like you can kind of see like the photo where he's standing in front of the skyline. It almost looks like the Empire State Building, like all these things. And it's like, yes. And also like
Right.
it says that it's a reenactment / dramatization. So like, it's not saying that they have the actual documents.
Right.
You know what I
right.
mean? And so he kind of went on to kind of be like, this isn't true. What seems to have happened was they told kind of a story that they had heard, almost like maybe like an urban legend sort of thing.
Yeah.
They told this on Aliens. And then knowing that the internet was still kind of newish,
Yeah, definitely.
it's in Ukrainian. So then it kind of got passed through and like retranslated like through
Right,
the internet.
the translation wasn't great.
Well, and then all of a sudden, like people just picked it up on the web in America or wherever, and we're
And then
like,
you're playing a
"Oh,
game
this
of
is
telephone."
real."
Yeah.
Right. And like, there's all the documents that prove it, and all these things, and it's just like,
Right.
is it real? And it was just a reenactment. Is it not real? And like, it just got like taken out of context in a way. Like, what happened here?
Right.
Right. So I think there's two things that are interesting here. One, that because at the end of the day, like he couldn't have known what was on the camera unless he took the pictures.
Right.
You know what I
Because there's no
mean?
way to. You didn't have the digital camera being like, oh, this is what I took. That one's blurry.
Right.
You were just. You had to develop it.
Correct.
Or know what you took.
Correct. And so there were like all of the like, he couldn't have known what was on it.
Yeah.
Also, how does she have like a photo of him in front of this random skyline?
Right.
Like, it's not like people have like Photoshop readily available to them, like in 2006. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and like, so all these things. So on one hand, this kind of starts to indicate like the aspect of like time travel,
Right.
unintentional time travel.
Right, because he had no idea what was going on.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's kind of jumping around in time.
Glitching through the system.
Correct. Like Wreck-It Ralph. If you've seen it. Great movie.
Yep, exactly like Wreck-It Ralph.
Seriously, women. And so he's jumping around, but then you also introduce this aspect of extraterrestrials.
Right, because the photo of the bell-shaped object in the sky.
Correct. And the fact that he took a picture of it, and the minute he took a picture of it, he time
got
jumped.
warped. Yeah.
Right. So this kind of not only does this implicate the possibility again, everyone conspiracy theory, but not only does it implicate the possibility of time travel, but it implicates the aspect that extraterrestrials have this this ability and this like the science to be able to the technology to be able to do this,
Right.
and can institute it on others at their will.
Yeah, without leaving a trace.
Right.
Supposedly. Because my big thing in this whole story is no camera in the fucking room. That's what I'm most pissed about.
mad.
Well, yeah, like why wouldn't you keep an eye on someone in your holding cell, you know?
I mean, I agree with you.
But because like if there's no evidence of that, if there's no evidence of any like scorch mark or of him egressing the room or anything like that, then that's the trick part that I am having trouble figuring out. Because like everything else would be like, oh, like he played it up, he acted it out, created a fake ID, blah blah blah. Like,
But then got this like 70-year-old woman involved.
yeah, you can get anybody involved for enough money.
But then also, how do you have that old of a camera in pristine condition with film that hasn't been in distribution since the 70s?
Money.
In 2006?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
There were still fucking rich people, unfortunately, in 2006, while the rest of us were having the time of our lives.
Right before everything burned to the ground. Okay, fair. So the only thing that you're hung up on is the fact that we don't know how he went missing from the holding cell.
Right. That's my only thing.
So then the other theory behind that is that maybe he glitched out and jumped into a different time. Or maybe he glitched out and went back to the 50s, right? Whatever.
Right.
Or all of this is real to some degree, and because it was getting processed in a police station, the government found out and like busted him out
And shut it down.
and didn't leave a trace of it.
Yeah.
Which, possible.
I mean, definitely. I
Yeah.
don't know how scary the Ukrainian government got back in that day. Because they weren't part of the USSR at that time. Where
Right.
They could have those freaky fucks pulling all those moves.
Yikes.
Yeah, I don't know about like the CIA equivalent of Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, and also just like that tells me that in 1958 that the Ukrainian government or some government had some sort of flying object, and then that was able to glitch him out.
Yeah.
Or do you think
or
it's just
it's
completely
a weather
separate?
balloon or a spy balloon.
I don't know. I mean, possibly.
I hate conspiracy theories. I love them, but I hate them because I'm such a skeptic.
Sure.
Yeah, skeptic.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm not a septic tank.
We hope not.
No, I'm such a skeptic where I'm like, fuck that. No. It could be this, that. But it's the room, because like it could have been a spy balloon or 1958. I mean, we were doing some like weird technology shit. The Russians definitely
Cold
were.
War,
Yeah,
right?
during the Cold War. So it could have been just some weird fucking thing. I don't.
But also thinking of, current events.
I'm
now,
annoyed.
So mad. I'm going to bring so many more conspiracy theories to this podcast. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So with the current congressional hearings of people being like, we have UFOs.
Yeah.
We have bodies.
Yeah.
Like, so we're learning and building off of this technology that we have. And I think we've had for a while.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't think like all of a sudden over the past 10 years, all of a sudden everyone's visiting us, and we now,
Well,
you know
no,
what I mean?
Roswell was 1954 question mark somewhere.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So like, and I think that also, and again, conspiracy theory, but like plays into why we had such a drastic development of technology.
Like, you think the huge boost, the huge growth in technology that you and I have even experienced of, I always bring up the example of cell phones.
Yeah.
And internet and all that fun stuff. You think that came from alien technology?
I think it disseminated down. I think it was
Like,
part of
we're
it's
trying
in the
to
military.
reverse, yeah.
Yep. And then like just kind of slowly, little by little, it's just like disseminating out.
Yeah, well,
but
a
it's
lot
happening
of
so quickly.
modern stuff comes out of military research just
Right.
because they want to, do their job better. But I think they release some of it when they're comfortable with it, so the rest of society can like integrate,
Right.
And like they can use other contracts of like other tech companies and shit like
Right.
that.
I think there's so much happening within the military. Well, of course, but like,
Oh yeah,
so much happening within the military and technology that we can't even like grasp or think of.
Right.
That's just completely under wraps.
yeah, 100%.
I just like we probably have Atlantis. You know what I mean? Like,
Found it. We're good.
Found it. We're fine.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's a little blue crystal and like all those things.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's the interesting thing of like, okay, now it starts to like branch out into UFOs, time travel technology, like all of these things, and like,
Right.
I think we should do a UFO episode too.
Yeah, well, I need to really read into all of the files that have come up through the recent hearings.
Yeah.
Because it's just been so much information coming out that it's hard for me to keep up with. But one thing they keep saying is like non-humans. They don't say aliens. They don't say little green men. Mm-hmm. It's always non-humans. I'm like, okay, so are they from outer space? Are they from underneath like the earth or like in the deepest parts of the ocean?
What is it?
Right.
That'll be interesting. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's redacted.
Yeah, probably.
It is interesting to see that a lot of like experiments seem in this realm of like UFOs or like all that technology seems to be through the Navy. Like a lot of conspiracy theories with the like experimentation, like the Philadelphia experiment, like the Montauk experiment, things like, or project or whatever. Like a lot of that goes through the Navy. I'm like, is it because they're not like doing a lot? You know what I mean? Like they are and they aren't. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like they're protecting our borders at sea, but like, like the military is like on the ground, like in.
Yeah,
you know
the
what
Navy's
I mean?
doing a lot more than
well,
you
yeah,
think,
but what
so
I mean is like
know.
it's interesting that like they're not really either one. There's not like its own sort of department.
Yeah,
but everything seems like all of these kind of experiments seem to be going through.
I wonder if it's because they can be out in the middle of the ocean where there's no laws.
Maybe.
And like
Maybe.
if shit goes wrong, there won't be any like civilian casualties.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like let's see, like a weird pathogen getting out. From like an alien substance.
Yeah.
Like an Andromeda strain. Phenomenal book and movie.
What is that?
So Andromeda strain is it's a really old book. I don't remember when it came out. But essentially, a meteor crashes into this small town in southwest United States, I think.
Okay.
And there is an alien germ on it that just kills and eats up everyone in that town like almost instantly. And so the government comes, controls the substance, I think gets a sample of the substance. It's been a while since I've read the book.
Okay.
Gets a sample of the substance and puts it in a super high security facility that's multi-leveled, where the bottom level of this underground base is where that substance is being kept for these few scientists to study it, and each level is like a different type of science to try to study the substance.
Okay. With
less and less security and like less and less environmental protection.
Okay.
For each level. Yeah. It's a really fascinating book. It's really cool. Gets a little tense at the end. I don't want to spoil it.
Oh.
So yeah, I think that's maybe why the Navy is doing it, because then they're out in the ocean. Like it can, if anything goes wrong, like they can just crash it there.
That's fair. I kind of want to like be the person who knows. Like, how do you become the person who knows all the things?
Well, you have to be at least 45 years old and run for
See,
a minor election. Just a little election called the U.S. president.
A little bit. But I think not even the president has clearance for everything.
Oh, they don't know everything. They know some stuff.
Some stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the presidents, I want to say Obama, was like, yeah, but I'm not going to say it.
Right. Well, that's like National Treasure, where you know, it's like that's the book.
Yeah.
But I think that there is someone though, and there's like, of course, that conspiracy theory too, of like there is like a select few people, like the council almost in like Shield, like, you know, the council, who do like know everything that's happening.
Yeah, there has to be.
How do I be that person?
I mean, we don't even know if they exist, so I don't know how to get you there.
Does it get into the military?
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to work for the CIA. I think that's your first step.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like desk jobs you can start at with the CIA.
I think you could do pretty well with the CIA.
Like, you don't have to be a field agent, like killing people.
You
can just be doing research or like translating languages.
Do you know who I actually think would do really well in like cyber intelligence? Is Brian, my husband.
Oh,
he's like, only because he's like nosy as fuck.
Why didn't you go work for the NSA then?
Honestly, someone would be like, "Did you hear about this?" And like that's how he would immediately just like start to find out all of the information. So we just need to join the CIA.
Yeah.
And then we'll start to like slowly climb up the ranks. We're only 30.
Perfect. We have so much time to
We have at least another 30 years
to be an old dude running the CIA. Perfect.
Well, that's a topic. Just a fun little conspiracy topic. Nothing crazy. You're still mad about it.
I am a little bit, but it's fine.
But it's going to be every conspiracy theory I bring to you, you're going to be mad about, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, it's just because I'm a skeptic.
Truly.
Skeptic.
I can't wait for the one that it's going to be like a two-parter. You're going to be so mad. You're going to be so mad, and I can't
It's going to
wait.
be such a cliffhanger.
You're going to be like, what are you talking about? It's going to be great.
I love it.
So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today and listening. Remember to keep on liking and subscribing and commenting and all the good things.
And you can follow us on all of the socials for TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It's going to be at @WhatDoYouKnow_podcast. And for Twitter, X, I don't
just say Twitter.
It is at WDYK_podcast. We're also on Threads.
Yeah, we are.
So that's the same thing as the Instagram.
The future of Twitter is Threads, you know?
Yeah.
I say we call it Twitter until the sign's down off the building. And that was halted by police.
It sure was. So, like us at every social media site there is.
Yes.
And give us that 5-star. Give us that like, subscribe, and
that's all.
That's
folks.
it.
Bye, Dev.
Bye, Nick.